D. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavijacharya Ashtotoda Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavijacharya Ashtotoda Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Kwantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamadirayet. Okay. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 25th day of February, 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace HG Dravida Dasa, Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 7, The Science of God, Chapter 6. Prahlad instructs his demoniac schoolmates. Text number 19. Na hi achyutam prinayato bahu ayaso asuratmajah atmavat sarva bhutanam siddhatvad iyasarvatah na yachyutam prinayato bhavayaso suratmajah atmavat sarva bhutanam siddhatvad iyasarvatah na yachyutam prinayato bhavayaso suratmajah atmavat sarva bhutanam siddhatvad iyasarvatah na yachyutam prinayato bhavayaso suratmajah atmavat sarva bhutanam siddhatvad iyasarvatah na yachyutam prinayato bhavayaso suratmajah atmavat sarva bhutanam siddhatvad iyasarvatah. Oh, it is atmatvat. I'm sorry. Atmatvat. It's correct. Na yachyutam prinayato bhavayaso suratmajah atmatvat sarva bhutanam siddhatvad iyasarvatah. Na yachyutam prinayato bhavayaso suratmajah atmatvat sarva bhutanam siddhatvad iyasarvatah. Anyone online? Okay.
Nahi achyutam prinayato bhavayaso suratmajah atmavat sarva bhutanam siddhatvad iyasarvatah.
What are my words? Na, not. He, indeed. Achyutam, the infallible Supreme Personality of Godhead. One note. Prabhupada's definition of infallible was never can fall. Just remember that, always and everywhere. Priyaniyata, satisfying. Bahu, much. Ayasaha, endeavor. Asura atmajaha, O sons of demons. Atmatvat, because of being intimately related as the Supersoul. Sarvabhutanam, of all living entities. Siddhatvat, because of being established. Iha, in this world. Sarvataha, in all directions, in all times, and from all angles of vision. Translation. Prahlada is speaking to his friends and classmates. My dear sons of demons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, is the original Supersoul, the father of all living entities. Consequently, there are no impediments to pleasing him or worshipping him under any conditions, whether one be a child or an old man. The relationship between the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always a fact, and therefore there is no difficulty in pleasing the Lord. Purport. One may ask, one is certainly very attached to family life, but if one gives up family life to be attached to the service of the Lord, one must undergo the same endeavor and trouble. Therefore, what is the benefit of taking the trouble to engage in the service of the Lord? This is not a valid objection. The Lord asserts in the Bhagavad Gita 14.4, Sarvayonisha kunteya murtayak sambhavantiyaha tasam brahma mahadjoni aham bija pradakpita. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father. Close quote. The Supreme Lord, Narayan, is the seed-giving father of all living entities, because the living entities are parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. Mame Vangsho Jiva Bhutaha. As there is no difficulty in establishing the intimate relationship between a father and son, there is no difficulty in re-establishing the natural intimate relationship between Narayan and the living entities. Solpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. If one performs even very slight devotional service, Narayan is always ready to save one from the greatest danger. The definite example is Ajamil. Ajamil separated himself from the Supreme Personality of Godhead by performing many sinful activities and was condemned by Yamaraj to be very severely punished. But because at the time of death he chanted the name of Narayan, although he was calling not for the Supreme Lord Narayan but for his son named Narayan, he was saved from the hands of Yamaraj. Therefore, pleasing Narayan does not require as much endeavor as pleasing one's family, community, and nation. We have seen important political leaders killed for a slight discrepancy in their behavior. I think he's referring to Mahatma Gandhi. Therefore, pleasing one's society, family, community, and nation is extremely difficult. Pleasing Narayan, however, is not at all difficult. It is very easy. One's duty is to revive one's relationship with Narayan. A slight endeavor in this direction will make the attempt successful, whereas one will never be successful in pleasing his so-called family, society, and nation, even if one endeavors to sacrifice his life. The simple endeavor involved in the devotional service of Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, hearing and chanting the holy name of the Lord, can make one successful in pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore bestowed his blessings by saying, Padam Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, all glories to Sri Krishna Sankirtan. If one wants to derive the actual benefit from this human form, he must take to the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Om Jnanatimarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So, Prahlada is making a very strong case here that his friends should not continue in their
demonic way, as it were, in the ordinary materialistic way, and simply become attached to family and home and wife and all of these different things, which are ultimately simply a great trap for the conditioned soul. And rather, he's saying that one should put his energy toward pleasing Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And here, the idea is that it's much easier. It's practically impossible to please even the family all the time. So many families break up, and it's just a progressively more involved trap, as he spoke in previous verses. It's not just the wife, but then there's the kids, and there's the relatives, and the nephews, and the uncles, and it just goes on and on. And it's, as he spoke, the first lesson, too, is, as Prabhupada quoted in the previous purport, when Hiranyakashipu asked him first, what did you learn today? What was the best thing you learned today? Tat sadhamanye asodavarya dehinam sadasamud vigna diyam asadgrahat hit vatnapatam griyamandakupam vanam gatoya dhanamashayet. Right away, he's not holding back. This is the original preaching, speaking truth to power. So again, this word sadhu now doesn't mean a great soul in this context. The best thing I learned, Father, tat sadhu manye, in my opinion. And I didn't call him Father; he called him Asurya Varya, best of the demons. Best for whom? Best for the conditioned soul. That's what really counts. Who's best for all the conditioned soul? Dehinam, who are in their conditioned state, sada samud vigna diyam, whose consciousness is always disturbed. Why? Asadgrahat. It's such a concise. You know, there's a nice concise little statement in the Adi Lila about how real eloquence is concise. I don't know the Sanskrit or Bengali, but it says, real truth spoken concisely is true eloquence. And so this is this little verse of Prahlad is like that. And all of his verses, whether he's speaking to his father or he's speaking to his friends, this is the nature of a Mahabhagavat, a Mahajan. So what does he mean there? He says, therefore, Father, since this is such a anxiety-producing, this idea of samudvigna, completely disturbed. The material life means you're completely disturbed with a few little reliefs when you're engaging in sense gratification, where you can forget. And then boom, it comes piling back on you. And oftentimes that sense gratification is what got you into more trouble and more suffering. You know, that's the nature of material life. So therefore, hit vatmapatam griyamandakupam, he's speaking again about the blind well of family life. Now why is it a blind well? Because you don't know. It seems like, oh, let's get married, everyone's doing it, you know, and we'll have a nice family and so forth like that. Right? So it's just like a blind well in a field. You're just walking along as free as a bird, you know, and suddenly, boom, you fall in, and you can't get out, and there's no one around, and suddenly you're in a critical situation. So a sadgrahat, as I pointed out many times, this is such a concise description of the nature of material life, is that all you know is the temporary things. You're taking the temporary to be real. You have no idea of the spirit. You have no idea of Narayan, you know, and Krishna and the whole material, the spiritual world. You've denied that. That's why you're here. You wanted to be separate from Krishna and to enjoy. Well, here's the enjoyment. But along with the so-called enjoyment comes all of this suffering. And it's not proportional. There's little ticklings of enjoyment here and there, you know. But then it ends, which is the real problem. And then there's all of this suffering. We've heard about the hells, you know. And the hells may be going on the subtle platform, so it's really not objectively that long because it's between bodies, kind of. But it seems like millions of years. It just seems, because that's the nature of it. And, you know, do we need to go over it again? It's worth reading those, you know. That if you get too much involved in illicit sex, then you have to embrace a hot iron form of the opposite sex for millions of years. Sounds like fun. Was it worth it? You know, those little tickling of the senses for those. At that point, you say, "Oh, what have I done? What have I done?" But it's too late. So that's the nature of material life: a little bit of fleeting pleasure, and a whole lot of suffering, characterized, if nothing else, by birth, old age, disease, and death, and the threefold miseries. There, it just comes with the material life. So Prahlad is speaking the truth here, and he's convincing us, and they're listening. They're shushushol. They're all ardently listening, submissively, and it's a tremendous challenge to Hiranyakashipu. So here the point is that we already have the relationship with Narayan, with Krishna. It's already there. It's always been there, but it's buried. We've forgotten it. It's still in our hearts. How can it be? We're his children. And he never forgets us. He's always with us as a super soul, trying to give us good instruction, but we're not listening. Sometimes, if you're raised in a moral family, there'll be like pangs of conscience that may prevent you from doing something bad. That's good. That's the super soul in there, But it has to be more explicit. You have to really understand the instructions. And for that, we need to get the external manifestation of the super soul, which is the Guru and the Shastra, giving us good instruction. And that's why I like to quote this verse. Some of you may be familiar with it. I was thinking about this class. But Prahlad, his prayers are just like conclusive. They're really wonderful. And he reiterates many of these same truths, which are eternal truths. And this one especially, he quotes, I think, Prabhupada quotes in one of those two poems. I think it's in the one he wrote actually on his way to America, not after he got off. That's the HG Bhagavatam, which is more famous. But anyway, this verse, Prahlad is praying to Nrsingadev after all he's killed the Hiranyakashipu and all the demons. And it's just a wonderful verse here. Evang janang nepatitam babavahi kupe kama bikama manayak papatan pasangat kritvat pasat surarshina bhagavan grihitam soham katam labisujeta vabritya sevam. My dear Lord, Nrsingadev, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because now he's taking the role, as the great acharyas usually do, of a conditioned soul who's been saved, My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of my association with material desires, one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes, following the general populace. But your servant Narada Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I leave his service? It's immortal, So, this is the same Prahlad giving this. So this is really the key, because in our conditioned state, we need to have the blessings of a realized soul who we get association from. And we hear at least long enough and at least sincerely enough to become attracted to associate with devotees more. That's the key. Because by that association, then you can get inspired to actually take up the practice. Adau Shraddha Tatak Sadhu Sangha Bhajana Kriya. In the first three steps, in the ladder, from faith to love, that Rupa Goswami outlines in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Such a wonderful, important pair of verses. So that Adau Shraddha, where does that Shraddha come from? Preliminary faith. Prabhupada described it as respect, interest, enough to bring you into the association. Now, I asked, there was a nice Russian boy who came yesterday. He was chanting rounds for, some time. And I asked him afterward, well, how did you hear about us reading a book? No, the internet. That seems to be more prominent in Russia. But it's the same idea, And that is that somehow you get the interest, or maybe by mistake, somehow or other, you get onto a site. And somebody is speaking. Prabhupada didn't record too many lectures, but with video. But so many wonderful speakers, and you could hear from there, or you can see so many things or read. And somehow or other, he became intrigued, and he came, and he's pretty serious. He was chanting the whole time. So that that's the idea. Somehow or other, if you're open to the words, open to the instruction. And even if you're not, even if you're just on the street and you hear the chanting and it's intriguing and you stop, I've been in so many Harinam parties and people, what is this anyway? And they're there and they listen to the name and then they go on. But the name has its effect I mean, I always go back to this verse by, I forget the Sanskrit. As I mentioned, these are Chitraketu's prayers after he gets the darshan of Sankarshan. And they're in meter that I can't figure out. But anyway, it says there that even if one just hears one holy name, chanted, that's been chanted sincerely or purely, that will wipe out eons of your karma. I mean, what a blessing, and what a inducement, or what a, you know, it should be a inspiration to go and Harinam and to give the holy name and to what the speaker to give the books. You know, this is literally the lifeline of these people. If there's no devotees out there chanting, no devotees out there trying to invite people, give them books, then what's the hope for them? You see? So this is the real nature of the Vaishnava and the duty of the Vaishnava. That's why this nice quote in here where Prabhupada talks about hearing the words of the spiritual master. And that's why in that song we sing every morning, Shri Guru Charana Padma, for me, the most important line is Guru Mukha Padma Bhaka Chitta Tekarayake Arna Kariya Manayasha. When you think about it, it means he's encouraging his listeners and his own mind. You know, there's a different interpretation of that word bhai. I don't know if you've seen that. It can be, oh brothers, so he's speaking to all of us. Or it can mean his, oh mind, oh brother. You know, so he's speaking to, you know, so from the lotus mouth, Guru Mukha Padma is coming words, like Guru Mukha Padma Vakya. Chitte te kodeya aikya, make those words one with your heart. In other words, take them in and worship them and try to follow them with your life breath. Chitte te kodeya arna kodeya mone asha, and don't desire any other instruction, any other words. In other words, that's real, faithfulness. And that's the sure way for advancement. Again, going back to my favorite section of the Bhagavatam, chapter 2 of first canto, starting with text number 6, what is real Dharma, right, and ending with 21, I think, Vidyate Hriya Grantis. But in the middle there, he's describing how does one really advance? By hearing, by remembrance. He comes to the point, he says, Tasmat Tvam ekena manasa, tasmat ekena manasa, Bhagavan sat patampati, shortavya kititavyascha, deyat pujas nityada. He's saying that the success of Varnashram is to satisfy Hari, and therefore one should always, Bharata, Parikshit, King Parikshit, son of Bharat, descendant of Bharat. I'm sorry, that's a different word. Therefore, with one point in mind, ekena manasa, Bhagavan sat patampati, of the Supreme Lord, who is the master of all of these sattvatas, the devotees. Here, shotavyak, kirtidas, chant, dhyayak puja, to meditate on, worship always. In other words, one should always hear about, chant about, meditate and worship on the Supreme Lord. Then, what will be the result? Then you'll always be able to remember Him and to perform devotional service. It'll be unmotivated and uninterrupted. You see? So how does one come to that point? Well, one has to hear. We have to go attracted to hearing. So the hearing, the attraction for the Krishna Katha is key to try to develop that. Because the thoughts and the ideas and the philosophy and the illusion all begins with the sound. Just as the enlightenment begins with the sound. So that's why, we shouldn't associate with the non-devotees, because we're going to hear things, we're going to get the influence. So that's so therefore, and so he's saying that one should cultivate the taste for hearing Krishna Katha. Well, how do you get that? Here's the key verse: Shushu sho shadadhanasya vasudeva katha ruchi syan mahatsevaya vipra punya tirtha nishevanat. Again, we're back to the Mahatma, the Guru. Sushusho Shradhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi. So the ruchi, the taste to hear with faith, Krishna Katha, Syan, comes into being, is created by. Syan Mahat Sevaya, serving the Mahat, serving the Mahatma, serving the Guru. Punya Tirtha Shevanat, who's a very walking Tirtha, place of pilgrimage. Wherever Prabhupada went, he created a place of pilgrimage. And he himself was, what is a place of pilgrimage? It's a place where you go that's sacred, the sacred energy is flowing because of the influence of Krishna or his pure devotees. Prabhupada created that. This place is a place of pilgrimage now. It's a holy place. You come here and you can hear Krishna Katha, you can get the books, you can see the deities, you can get the prasad, get association, everything. Get purified. So that's so what he said, Prahlad is instructing his friends, his classmates, that you're already related to Narayan. In other words, your relationship is already there, relationship of love. Just as a father has an innate relationship of his children. The children might wander away and go away somewhere, but if they want to come back, and reestablish that relation, the father is all arms, thank you for coming back, tears are flowing, It happens all the time. So that's exactly what we have. We have this unbreakable relationship with Krishna, but we are moment to moment denying it by absorbing our mind in the objects of the senses, which in normal times, means it begins with family and the children and all of this thing, And now the mode of ignorance is so prominent that marriage is becoming an imagination. That's there in the 12th canon, But people are just connected to the sex, and probably as soon as that becomes problematic, we'll get someone else. It's worse than animal life, So that's the environment we're in, and therefore Lord Chaitanya has given us this wonderful process. Prabhupada ends, Vijaya Jai Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. That first verse is so important. It pretty much summarizes the whole movement, Jayato Dharpana Marjanam. This is the first thing, just the cleansing of the heart. And as soon as you cleanse the heart, Bhava Mahada Bhagni Nivapanam, there's your liberation. The great fire of material life is extinguished by clearing the heart, by reestablishing even the beginning. It's like the moonshine. It causes this light blooming lotus of good fortune to blossom in one's heart and all over the world. Chandrakavanan and Vidyavadu Jivanam. It is a life and soul of transcendental knowledge, meaning that that your knowledge is already there. It's just covered. That when you become purified, that the super soul is speaking to you, and you're becoming enlightened. What to speak of reading the books, hearing, so that or let's say in a more practical way, the way that we all experience, you become interested in reading the books. It becomes fascinating. Oh, what is that mantra? I had such a wonderful experience. Who is this Krishna? Boom, you got reading Krishna book, right? Then your knowledge is flowing. And you're interested in it, it's not something weird, So that's the Vidyavadu, Anandam Buddhivardhanam. I like that. The ocean of bliss is expanding. It's not that there's an ocean of bliss you can dive into, but it's expanding, it's flooding everywhere. You read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Chaitanya Bhagavatam, and you see how Lord Chaitanya flooded, wherever he was. Whether he's traveling in South India or in Navadvip or even in the house of Shivas. He and Nityananda and all of them were just swimming in this ocean of ecstasy from chanting the holy name. So we may, why aren't we doing that? I mean, I like it, but it's not like that, Yeah, because we're maintaining so many barriers, and we're not pure. But if we give ourselves to the process of chanting nicely and giving up the offenses, which we should learn and know, and then everything about Krishna consciousness will become more tasty, and we become more attracted to the things that are all attractive. I was just sharing a couple of verses. I've been doing my exercise in the temple. You may have noticed that. I'm sorry, Virachanda. I think I disturbed you when you were sitting there. You went upstairs. Kind of walking fast back and forth, rather than walking around, because I'm on a marathon for the BBT, so I need to save a little time. But I was chanting, these verses were coming to mind. Lord Chaitanya in the Madhya Lila somewhere, I think it is. I'm sorry, I can't give the exact reference, but he quotes from the 10th canto, the songs of the gopis. Now, there's 4 songs of the gopis. This one is Yugal Geet, and it always struck me. It's such a wonderful image. The gopis are at home and they're thinking of Krishna, and they're meditating on Krishna as he's entering the forest with his friends. So now they're there, Anucharai Sumanavarn, and you just can hear the beat, Anucharai Sumanavarn Taviya Adipuda Shahivacha Labuti Vanacharoka Titateshitadamti Venanavi Gasi Yadahi. So that's the first of 2 verses. Yugal means also they're in pairs. So Anucharai, what is Anucharai? Those are his companions, those who are following him. Anucharai. Somanavarna Taviya. They're nice, so beautifully describing his powerful, glories. Virya, Adi Purusha, Iva Achalabut. It is as if, they don't know he's God, it is as if he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, surrounded by his vibhutis, by his powers, he's walking. Adi Purusha, Iva Achalabhuti. Vanachero, they're going in the forest, Gidita Teshu on the side of the mountain of Govardhan Hill, and as they're visualizing, he's going everywhere with the cows and the boys. And then what happens? Of course, he plays his flute. Vain and then he plays his flute to call the cows. This is a large way how he herds those cows. As soon as he calls them, he can play their names with that flute, believe it or not, or names of groups that then come. So he's playing, very attractively. What's the result? So he's going through the forest, So it says, Vanalatasta the Ba'atmani Vishnum Vyanjayandihiva Pushpa Balaja Pranadabada Vatapamanudana Prema Rishtatanabhova Vashusma. So Vanalatas. So these are the forest creepers and the trees. Vanalatas Tadava. Atmani Vishnum Vyanjayandihiva. They're like yogis suddenly manifesting the Vishnu in their heart, realizing Vishnu and becoming all enlivened, you see? Vyanjayandihiva Pushpa Paladya Pranatabhara. So the Pushpa Paladya, suddenly it's like, you've seen these time-lapse photographs of flowers blossoming and things, so it's just like that. Suddenly they get blossoms and fruits, on them. And the extra weight now from the vines and the tree branches is causing them to bow down to Krishna as he's going through the forest. Pranatabhara, weight of they bow down because of the weight. Pranatabhara vitapam hadudara. And there's a flow of honey, or rather sap, sweet sap coming down in the form of tears, They're visualizing all that. But prema rishta, and prema, then the little filaments are on it, they're in ecstasy. Just the flowers and trees. Tanavo bhavashusma. So this is just, and it goes on, which I want to get. But all that is there. It's for us, It's quoted. That's quoted in the CC. Prabhupada gave it to us, and now by His mercy we were able to complete the 10th canto, and there's a whole 35th chapter you can meditate on these verses. They're all it's just incredible. And if you get into this is one of the great things about the verses, that they kind of help control the mind. Because there's something about poetry. The English poetry is so crude compared to the Sanskrit, I know that. But it has one great advantage for us. You know what it is? We know the meanings. And it's a lot simpler. The meter is a lot simpler. But anyway, what is it? Now why is that? Such a great source of happiness, because it brings pleasure to Krishna. When you're meditating, it almost forces you to meditate, and to memorize itself as a meditation, and also sharing between devotees. You read, that's what Lord Chaitanya is doing the whole time in Jagannath Puri. Then Ramananda Roy, Swarup Damodar, they're all increasing his mood. Especially, I think, Swarup Damodar. As soon as he got a certain mood, it sensed that he would chant something to increase it, like that. So all of this is there for us. And it's like the opposite of sense gratification, in the sense that it doesn't degrade, it rather exalts, is pleasing to Krishna. It gets, And the essence of the whole thing is Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It's all there. If we would chant purely, that would bring us into these things, and then we'd be writing and our realization. So and it's so simple. It doesn't it doesn't require extreme austerities and penances, as Prabhupada calls them. And so this is what he's giving his friends now. And of course they will completely surrender to Prahlad, and that will infuriate Hiranyakashipu, and the pastime will go on from there. Okay, it's 8:30 now. Any questions? I think you have a question or a comment.
I have a question.
Okay, I know. Just hold on there, Vijay.
Yes, I can wait, no problem.
Good.
I was wondering if you could do the one from Gopal Champu with Mother Yashoda offering Arti to Krishna and Balaram. Do you have an English poem for that?
Do I have what?
An English poem for that? Do you?
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I haven't chanted that one for a while. I know the refrain quite nicely. Harina Harina Sahadabadalina Rajini Mukamana Janani Ladatamatikatam Jitikalina. Just the refrain can get over the moon. Harina Harina. So Harina is Krishna. Harina refers to the plow, so that's Balaram. So Harina Harina Sahadabadalina, and it's described Balaram as, because in that chapter, this is the end of Dhenukasura chapter, he's kind of featured. He's the one who killed Dhenukasura, and so Krishna praises him. Harina Harina Sahadabadalina, Balaram who's kills all the enemies. Janani, that's the mother. No, wait. What is it? Yeah. But first it describes when the evening is coming. Just when the evening is coming, the face of night is there. It's the evening. Janani Lalanam. She takes Krishna and Balaram in, and then she's pampering them. And then the next verses describe how she performs an arti. This is not mentioned in the Bhagavatam. She performs a little arti for them. That's the first thing. And then she converses with them, and then of course she feeds them, and then she puts them to bed. And also her friend, Krishna's friends are looking in, relishing all this. She invites them all in, does the same thing for them, feeds them and everything, and then they have a sleepover, and then they sleep in. I'm sorry, with that question, I'm going to review it and get it. That was the first one I memorized. And I realized, well, this is Jiva Goswami. He's pretty good at Sanskrit. And he has a whole series of songs which have been translated by Kushakrata, with word by words and everything. But the one that I really get into is the one based on the Venugita, when he's walking in. Rama Rama Nudihiti Yugalam Kutanata Beshati Yapatadajati Gayati Sakagana Yugalam. That's the refrain. Rama and Ramanuja. Ramanuja is the name for Krishna. He was born after Rama. You see? Anuja. Rama Nudihiti Yugalam, this pair, Kutanata Beshati, dressed just like dancing heroes, dancing actors, Kutanata Beshati Yapatadajati, and they're very expertly singing and playing the flute. And their friends are all accompanying them, it describes. And then my favorite of all, the reason why I memorize it, there's a history, because when they installed Krishna Balaram in Alatra, I would visit there twice a year. They were just stunning. I have some pictures. It's amazing. Balaram is looking at you and it's like, he's about ready to speak to me. I got some close up. So I said, and then I came across this song, and it's all about Krishna Balaram. Unlike the gopis songs in the Bhagavatam, the gopis sing the first, I read the commentary on this, it sings about Krishna Balaram. Akshan batam paramidam tabaram bedama. For those who have eyes, there's no greater vision than to see the beautiful faces of Krishna and Balaram as they enter the forest with their friends playing their flutes like that, And then the next verse is also about Krishna and Balaram. But I think by the time you get to the third verse, it's all about Krishna. See, they're a little afraid that their elders would hear them, so if they just glorify Krishna and Balaram, they can't get upset. But if they're just focusing on Krishna, then they may suspect, that. That's what the commentators say. Of course, it comes back, Hantaya Mandana Bala. So anyway, here's the one about Balaram. It's also about the bees. The bees are featured in this. The bees are very important, because they're humming, but they're not just humming. They're singing all kinds of prayers and stotras and everything. So mala padamala vali vali vapadadi baladasa desham So mala mala, they're both wearing these exquisite garlands, just like we had, Prabhupada's garland, is super fragrant on Sunday, Nima. So they're wearing, super fragrant forest flower garlands down to their knees, so it's all very fragrant. Their bodies are already fragrant, and their mothers, then this is vali vali, and Kushakrata couldn't figure out what that was, but I did research. Vali usually means a wrinkle, but that doesn't make any sense in this case. But I learned that vali is a little instrument by which their mothers can apply these fragrant ointments all over their body. It's like we use, the Q-tip or something, So vali vali, vapur ali vali. So all over the body. So they've got the garlands, they got their own natural fragrance, they got the applied fragrance, and the bees just go mad. All the bees in the forest come, the swarms of bees. So that's ali. So you got vali, then ali. Mala mala padimala vali vali vapur ali valita sadesham. Valita means surrounding. Wherever they are, they're surrounded by these swarms of bees, but they're not ordinary bees. Ali jankuti nuttakola halaba. They're very loudly and enthusiastically chanting all these stotras and nutis, about Krishna and Balaram. And that's also in Yugal Gita. It describes there. It's mentioned the bees there, how the bees come and glorify, and Krishna responds by playing his flute. Anyway, all this is there for us and for you, and it's that's how you can really enjoy, And if we just enjoy like that, there's no limit. That's the Anandam Buddhivardhanam. There's unlimited vibrations, and we can make I did my own little, attempts at poetry, and that's how we can go back to guided. Otherwise, if you get entangled in this world, it's just a nightmare. So that's actually what Prahlad's message is here. Okay, hold on, Vijay. We have one question locally, or a comment?
Yes, no problem.
Maybe an objection?
Thank you for the class. You mentioned this second chapter of first canto. And what kind of hearing should be to attain these results?
What kind of hearing?
Quality of hearing.
There's a word describing it. It's right in the beginning of Bhagavatam, second verse. Shu shu sho. It's a key word. That's in those verses. And Prabhupada defined it in two ways. Most famously with the phrase submissive oral reception. In other words, it's not that your mind is, I object to that, object to that, object. No, you're just receiving and accepting. That's Guru Mukha Padma Bhakti Kodiyaka. But also he said ardent hearing. Hanging on every word, not letting your mind wander and space out. That's important. So those two, it's very sincere hearing where you're actually just drinking in the words and you're accepting. It's the same thing. Guru Mukha Padma Chitite Kodiyaka. So that kind of hearing of the words of the Bhagavatam, of the words of the Guru, pure source, is really the essential prerequisite for advancement in devotional service. And you can apply it to your japa also. Ardent hearing of the holy name, the intricacies of the holy name. Everything is there. Krishna is there. We know that. What is it? Binnat van nama namino. Abhinnat van nama namino. There's no separation between the name and the named. Just if you believe that, what a blessing. Now I can chant Hare Krishna and associate with Krishna. That's the whole idea. But listen to the intricacies of that sound, and everything will be revealed one day, hopefully in one of my lifetimes. Okay, Vijay Krishna, you're on. Then we will adjourn. Go ahead.
Dravida Prabhu, I'm sorry, but Maitreya Prabhu is here. Maybe he would like to go first.
Okay, Maitreya Prabhu, please.
That's very humble of you. I wanted to know more about the word that follows shushusho, which is shradadhanasya.
Yeah.
But actually, Vijay was on first, so you go ahead, Vijay.
Oh no, I insist, Maitreya Prabhu. Go ahead.
All right. You can talk about shradadhanasya.
So shushusho shradadhanasya vasudeva kataruchi. So the whole thing is, how do you get vasudeva kataruchi? And here's the way. So with faith has to be there. I mean, it's kind of a concomitant to shushusho. Why would you hang on every word unless you have faith in the words? But it's just emphasizing the point that faith, first of all, preliminary faith brings you into the association of devotees so you can hear. And that faith is meant to become more deepened to the point where it fits the description of Lord Chaitanya. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kohe Sudridha Destroy. Krishna Bhakti Korle Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. Prabhupada quotes this in the Bhagavad Gita. I forget what verse it is. But what it means is real faith, which is the corresponding to Nishta in those verses by Rupa Goswami. It means absolute conviction, unshakable conviction that just by following the principles and practices of devotional service, all my aspirations will be fulfilled. I don't have to do anything else. And even working, outside, that also can be part of devotional service when you're conscious, I'm supporting my family, and we got it's centered on Krishna. That's there. But the whole idea is that mood of, Shushusho kind of goes with Shraddhanasya. If you have the faith, then you can really be ardently hearing and submissively hearing. So that's the way I understand that, Prabhu.
Wonderful. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Vijay, last question, last answer.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, thank you very much. You're most kind and about pranams. Prabhu, do you mind reciting again the third sentence to the end of the purport?
All right, let me count here. 1, 2, 3. The one that ends Param Vijayate Krishna Sankirtan, or is that what you're talking about?
Now, it begins with the simple endeavor.
All right, this is at the end of the purport, right?
Yes, the second paragraph.
All right. The simple endeavor involved in the devotional service of Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, hearing and chanting the holy name of the Lord, can make one successful in pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yes, that is the quote. Thank you very much. You're most kind. So based on this quote, my question is, how would you elaborate or explain the very famous Hare Krishna principle, which is simple or plain living and high thinking?
Yeah. Simple living, high thinking. So the idea is that the high thinking is all that we do in Krishna consciousness. The process of devotional service, studying the Shastras, everything. So that's the high thinking. But it's fortified by simple living, because when it gets complicated, then you can read these verses by Prahlad, Ata grihat chetu pungsastriyamata nibhavametang tayamato vidya grantamaho Ata grihat chetu sutapta vitta janasya moho yamahamameti. Rishabdev said the 5th canto. It's the same thing, same idea. That beginning is sex life. Then then we get together, marriage. Then you have to have a home, griha. Then you have to have a job or a field that you can sustain everything, chaita. And then you have children. Oh, that's another complication. Got to put them through school. Got to feed them. Got to make sure they're okay. That's another worry. And then your relatives, your uncles and your aunts and everybody in the big mishpocha. Sutapta vittaya, and to support the whole thing is money. You say, where's your simple life? It's gone down the tubes. It's completely complicated. So if you can just control that one thing, if you can practice brahmacharya, which is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita as a principle of yoga, obviously, then you can avoid all of that complication. That's the whole idea. So that's a simple living makes high thinking possible. A life of high thinking, not just once in a while, on Sunday. So that's the idea. If you can really simplify your life down to the necessities, okay, I gotta live in the ashram, simple, but whatever, or simplify the household life also, by centering it on Krishna as much as possible. Then you can do more and more high thinking. That's the whole idea. And Prabhupada wanted this especially to be manifested in his farms. That's where he thought that would be easiest to see. You're not in the city, you have to deal with all that, but you simply, depending on Krishna and the cows and the land and the oxen and the bulls. We never were able to actually do it, and one of the reasons was the cell phone. And we'll get into that in the next class. If you got the cell phone in your pocket, you got the world in your pocket, you got access to too many things. But without the cell phone, it's become possible. That's the best I can do, Prabhu.
And you did it so well. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Haribo, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, forgive me, I'm on my marathon, so I'm going to run home. Hare Krishna.